So far, all of the segments that I've recorded have been about using the Creative Drawings Monogram program. But the Artistic Monogram suite actually comes with two programs. We've got the Creative Drawings, and then we also have a program called MyEditor. And to demonstrate using MyEditor, what I'm going to do is take this design that I've been, sort of demonstrating with for the last couple of segments, and I'm going to choose to send it over to MyEditor. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about what the purpose of the editor is and just exemplify a couple of ways that you might want to use that. So first of all, when you're using the Creative Drawings program, you can simply choose File and Export. And then you have three options here. It's to editor, to image, or SVG. Now, SVG is like to a vectorized file. To image would create a bitmap image of your embroidery design. But to editor, we'll send the design that we're working on to the MyEditor program. So I'm going to choose that now. And what you'll see is that the program, MyEditor, opens up. And so here we have the MyEditor software, and this is actually an additional piece of embroidery software that comes with the Artistic Monogram. Now, this is to try and explain the difference between sort of MyEditor and the Artistic Monogram program. Artistic Monogram, the window that I have, I guess I have them kind of staggered here. I'm just going to step on the back one. This is the program that you're going to use to create lettering and create monograms. But if you want to, you'll notice in here that we don't have the ability to, for example, open up an existing embroidery design. The only thing we could open are monogramming designs that we've created using this program. So there's no way to sort of really interact with adding lettering to another program. So that's where this MyEditor comes in. Also, the Creative Drawings program is really sort of a vectorized embroidery program where we're creating the general shapes, and the software creates those stitches, and it creates the stitches based upon the fabric choices. And so really, it's not until you choose File and Save As that this design gets generated with the specific embroidery stitches. Now, popping back over to MyEditor, this is not what you would use to create embroidery objects, but more specifically what you could use to edit them, to do some different styles of editing. And specifically, one of the ways that you may want to edit designs is to actually look at the exact stitches of the design, and you can even make stitch modifications like inserting stitches, deleting stitches, and all sorts of ways that we can control the program. So perhaps what I'll do is just start with a small overview of the MyEditor program. So similarly to the Artistic Monogram Creative Drawings program, we have drop-down menus. And inside of these drop-down menus are going to be links to the different features of the program. And again, most of those links also have tools on our toolbars. Now, just looking at the top, we've got Open, Save, Print. We've got Cut, Copy, and Paste, Undo and Redo. This is the View or Zoom percentage. These are for selecting and unselecting objects. This is to show or not show objects. This is to travel through the objects of your design. These are ways that they can be viewed. So it's stitch marks, stitches, and outlines can be displayed. We've got a slow redraw tool in this program. Down below this, you've got your color palette. So here we've got the color manager if we want to edit our colors. We've got the showing the colors that are in this design right here. Over to the left here, we have some commands that we can actually insert a command into our design, like a thread trim or a stop command, a needle up, frame out, sequins, borer, applique commands. And over here on the right, you've got your sequence view that shows you the sewing sequence of your design. Down below that we have an image map that basically shows us our entire image, and I guess if you were zoomed in on it, it would give you the sort of the overall legend of what you were looking at. So for example, if I zoom in on my design, I'm looking at a small piece of the design here in the image map. I can see that small piece, and I can actually click on this little white square and bring it to wherever I would like to look more closely at my design. So that's what this image map is over here. On the left hand side, I have the ability to select. This is the transformation select tool. Down below that I have the edit stitches tool. And we have a zoom in tool. And then we have rotate design and scale design. And so those are the different tools that we find on the toolbars. And so I think I'll demonstrate some of these different uses of the program. And so there's really just several different things that you could do to use the editor program. And for example, why don't we talk about editing stitches? Actually, before I even do that, I think I'll just demonstrate a few of the basic things on the toolbars. So for example, right now, if I click on the transform tool and then click on this letter T, it becomes selected. And just like in the creative drawings, I could move that, click on it and drag it to give it a new location if I wanted to. And you'll notice it shows me the old location by way of just a color. So it's showing me where it used to be, but it's now been moved to this location. If I select that letter T, notice here I have the ability to hide it. So if I click on the hide, it hides the letter T altogether. While I've got it hidden, I'm going to show you what the difference is here. Right now I have this turned on. It's called Show Filled Outlines. If I turn that off, it's going to hide that fill outline. There's a filled outline behind every object. So if I zoom in over the R and turn these back on, you can see what it does. It just basically puts a color behind all of your embroidery objects. And so because I hid the stitches for the letter T, I have now the show objects icon. If I click on that, show little eyeball, I guess, it'll show my objects again. So that's one way that you can just simply hide and show things. We also have the ability to show, this says show up to cursor. And so wherever my cursor is sitting, it will show up to. And what I mean by that, right now my cursor is at the beginning, so if I click show up to cursor, it pretty much hides everything. I mean, it leaves the outlines, but it doesn't show the stitches. Now, I'll click that again to leave all the stitches on. As an example, if I go to edit stitches, this tool here on the left, choosing that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on a stitch right in the middle of this letter R. So I'll zoom in very closely, and I'm just going to click on a stitch. And see how it's become selected? All right, I could easily at this point move this stitch or insert it, a new stitch, or delete that stitch. Nevertheless, there's where my cursor is right now, and if I click on show up to cursor, everything before the cursor gets shown, everything after my cursor is not shown. That's why it says show up to cursor. This next tool here is show stitch marks, and if I turn that on, it puts a little stitch mark over top of every needle penetration. So that's some of the different ways of viewing a design. Now, while we're on the topic of editing stitches, so the concept here is that I've turned on edit stitches, and if I click on a stitch, I select it, and if I click and drag, I move that stitch. If I right click over the stitch, I can choose to insert, and so it goes into an insert mode where I can watch how I can just click and it inserts a stitch, click another one, click another one, click, 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 click as many times as I want to click. I can create my own stitches quite literally manually. And so whatever I wanted to make it, and when I right click, I'm done inserting those stitches. So you can see here that I was able to insert a whole bunch of very specific stitches. It makes no sense. I'm just demonstrating the concept that we can select a stitch, move it, We could right click over it and choose to delete it. So we have many different options in the stitch editing, and it's something that you can be very specific with your editing. Now, this is something of interest. Because I've made these stitch edits to this letter R, if I go back to transform and select it, and then watch what happens if I click it and move it. I get a message. It says regeneration. Stitch editing is done on this object, and so it's locked. Regenerate, losing changes, which means if I regenerate the stitches, it'll lose all the changes that I've made. So if I say yes, regenerate, losing changes, that would all get lost. If I say no, it will simply move the stitches to the new location but not regenerate them. So I'll say no. And see it? So I didn't lose any of those changes that I made. So it's telling me, let's just do it again. So I'll select stitch editing. I'll go in on the T, select a needle point, and move it. And that's all I have to do. Then I come back to transform, select the letter T, try and move the letter T, and it warns me that there are stitch edits done and the object has been locked. If I regenerate losing changes and say yes, it says, okay, go ahead, that it's regenerated the stitches and it lost that stitch edit that I made. So by regenerating the object, and see, it actually regenerated the R got regenerated as well. So you have to be careful when you say yes and no if you want things to be regenerated, because you may lose the stitch editing that you've done. So just as an example, if you wanted to insert a thread trim in your design, you could come to the very specific place where you would wanted to edit it, go to stitch editing, and zoom in, select the stitch, and then choose thread trim. And so now we've inserted the thread trim right specifically at that point. So that's the way that you can insert a command into a design. You can edit its stitches. Perhaps what I'll do, I'm going to pop back over to the monogramming, creative monogram software, and we'll say new, start a new design over here, base it on some just normal fabric, choose new graphic, and finish. And then just put in some lettering, Trevor. Select that lettering and say edit, or sorry, file, and export, and send it over to the editor. So you see the word immediately comes over into our editor. Now from here we could do other things as well, like for example we could rotate the design in here, or we could scale the design in here, and I realize these are things that you could do in the sort of creative monogram software, but the thing is here we also have the ability in the MyEditor to work with other designs that we didn't create. Now I'm going to go ahead and say file and open. And when you choose open, and right now it's set for all embroidery files, and it's just looking at my desktop. I could use this to browse to any folder in my computer, and right now it says all embroidery files, and just to look you can see that we can open quite a large list of embroidery formats. So that would be everything from Janome to commercial formats like Tajima. Now I'm just going to leave it set on all embroidery files, and notice that on my desktop I have a design that's from one of the lessons that I prepared for different topics, but it's a design that I made called the butterfly corner, and it's a Jeff design. I'm just going to go click on that and say open. So imagine you've got an embroidery design. Maybe you downloaded it from the internet. Maybe it was one that you even purchased. And now you'd like to add lettering to it, or you'd like to try and make edits to it. So just as an example, here's the design in the sequence view, and I can see all of the different parts of my design, the colors, and the individual sort of parts of those designs, what the objects were. And notice if I click on it in the sequence manager, it highlights that portion of the design in the workspace. And similarly, if I click on it out here in the workspace, it highlights it in the sequence manager. You can use the sequence manager to drag and drop to change the sewing order of the colors if you want to. You can also, if I go into the color manager, you can see in here, first of all, these are all the colors in our color palette. These are all the colors in our embroidery design. And you can see here that they're actually quoting the Janome Jeff colors. Now, if you wanted to choose from a different color palette, you come to the list, say, well, no, we're not using Janome colors. Maybe we want to use something else. Maybe we've got Madeira colors, so we'll choose Madeira Classic. All of the colors here become Madeira Classic colors. If you want, you can actually just have it convert these colors from this palette. So if I say convert all, it doesn't change the colors, but it changes the quoted thread brand. You see that? And I'll say OK. So now we've got everything converted over to a different brand of thread. So that was done from here, your color manager. So another thing you can do in here is under your stitches menu, you have the ability to do remove all small stitches or an auto density control. And when you use auto density, so if you've got a design and you want to, it's like a filter, it's going to run this auto density control, and it's going to take your design and give you, I guess, maintain your densities. Now, as an example, we could rotate the design in here or scale your design. So, for example, if you wanted to choose to make your design smaller, so why don't I just make this design 90% of the original and say OK, and it reduces the size. Alright, so let's say you wanted to add lettering to a stock design or an embroidery design that you had. So we can pop back over to our lettering program. Why don't we just delete the word Trevor and zoom out a little bit and go in here and create text that says butterfly. And so then imagine how the butterfly text might appear with the design. I think all I'll do is just simply maybe rotate it to be on a bit of an angle and then say File and Export to my editor. And so it comes in as its own design, but what I can do here is select the word butterfly and just simply choose Copy. And then notice under my Window drop-down menu, all of the designs that I've opened are here. So we have this butterfly corner design that we've opened. And then I could choose Paste. And then I'll just click that word and bring it into the design wherever you wanted it to be. So that's the kind of concept that you can use the MyEditor program to do finalization edits. So in this case, I used it to create lettering and then combine it with an embroidery design. But I've also demonstrated how you could actually go in and make edits to the actual embroidery design. So if you wanted to come in and turn on your needle points and try to very specifically, perhaps your outline and your fill aren't lining up and you want to go in to your stitch editing, and then where did I go? On a small area like right here, and select your stitches and just move a few stitches out so that your design is just perfect. You can get in and make very small and specific stitch edits that may or may not help your design in the way it sews. So that's really the concept, is we can be very specific and make very small changes to the exact stitch placements of our design. And yeah, so that's the MyEditor program. And just similarly to the creative drawings portion, when you're in the MyEditor portion, you also have that ability to go to help and show the help contents and bring that over here and learn more about the program by going through and specifically looking at the different chapters and how you would do many of the different functions. So I don't think I covered this MyEditor in as much detail as I did. Really, I see the sort of creative drawings monogramming function as the main program that we're going to use to create our monogramming and lettering objects and designs. And then if you need to do specialized things like combining them with other embroidery designs or making stitch edits or applying sort of overall density changes to the design, then we can learn to use the MyEditor program to make those styles of changes. So I think that's going to conclude this segment on the MyEditor program, and I really hope that you enjoyed the DVD video guide for artistic monogramming software, and I hope you enjoy using your software, and yeah, so I certainly hope that you have a wonderful day. Thanks a lot.